Vince?
Yeah. Wow, that was a long intro. Don't know what happened there. Very disappointing with that intro, just like very disappointing with my Buffalo Bills DVD. Yeah, let's get started. Welcome back to another edition of Official Word Sports. I'm Vince. I'm here with my co-host Stevie D. Stevie D, it was all about the divisional playoffs, right? You had matchups, whether it be the Chiefs and the Jags, you had the Bills and the Bengals, the 49ers and the Cowboys, and who was the Eagles and the Giants, right? All of them played out as we expected, except for one, right? Which one doesn't fit here? Let's just put it like that, right? You look at it, you kind of going into this, you're like, even the experts, and I really don't follow what the pundits or what the experts say, but you look at the experts and they're like, well, Dak isn't going to show up, and the 49ers are just going to blow out the Cowboys. You look at Kansas City and Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's too new, and they're up and coming. They shouldn't be here. Chiefs are going to blow them out. Eagles and Giants. Well, this is a division game. Jalen Hurts is still bothering from that sore shoulder. So, this one may be a little closer, and then let's get to the Bills Bengals. Oh, this is going to be a shootout, right? And Buffalo is going to, prevail. They're at home, they're playing for Damar Hamlin. You have everything that's going on in the city of Buffalo, yada, 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 right? And you listen to all of that, and what do we get, right? They were completely wrong, right? On every game, but the one that the one that I want to focus on was the Buffalo Bills. I'm hearing all kinds of excuses, Stevie D. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing excuses from the majority of the players, the coaching staff. I haven't heard from the Pagulas yet, but I'm hearing excuses from the media, the local media in Buffalo. I'm hearing excuses from the fans, right? You could be critical of a team without saying that you're not a fan, right? Being a true fan, you always live with those rose-colored glasses because you do believe and you love that team. But at times you have to take those glasses off, Stevie D, and you have to look at, square exactly what it is. So I look at this game, and I saw a team that got punched in the mouth on the offensive side of the ball. I looked at a team that got punched in the mouth on the defensive side of the ball and laid down for 3 quarters. That's what happened. They laid down for 3 quarters, right? You want to talk about having 3 replacements on the offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals. That's fine, right? We've been playing together without Von Miller for the last, 6 to 8 weeks. We have first-round draft picks, second-round draft picks on that defensive line. We have free agents that we brought in on that defensive line, all that could have stepped up. Now, I know we're battling some injuries. I know that that's happening, but we were getting healthy, right? That's the thing, is that we were getting healthy. Hey, Terry. We were getting, or at least we were getting playoff healthy, right? Nobody's healthy in the playoffs, but we were playoff healthy, right? Meaning that you could play, you could go. And ultimately, what we saw was a team that was not prepared, a team where the coaching staff did not do their homework, did not scheme the right way. And we saw a complete and utter letdown by the Buffalo Bills. Now, first, because I don't ever want it to be said, and I say it all the time, my hat goes off to Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, to the Cincinnati Bengals, minus Eli Apple. We'll get to that later. My hat goes off to them. All right, those boys showed up on the road, divisional game. They knew what they wanted, and they went after it, and they got it. All right. I really don't have anything to say. I thought some of the calls were questionable, right? But I'm not using that as an excuse. That's not an excuse, right? When you get punched in the mouth and you don't retaliate, it's not on the referees, right? There's nobody you can blame except for holding up a mirror and looking at that mirror and seeing yourself, and the shell of yourself there. So that's who you blame. You blame the Buffalo Bills. To go further, Stevie D, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
man. It's your floor, man. It's your team.
I'm sorry.
You got to get it out.
Again, as we normally do. My co-host Stevie D. Stevie D. Few words. Go ahead. Let me catch my breath.
I think our thoughts align on a lot. I thought they were flat, and I don't understand how you come out at home and your fans are ravaged, right? They're going nuts. The place is rocking, and you come out flat, right? Okay, first drive you give up a touchdown. All right, you're going to get the ball back. It's going to be one of that, and then you get one first down, and then you're punting, and then they go back. You get the ball back, and they go right back down the field. You're like, uh-oh, right? And it just felt like the energy from the players just weren't there. That's what I felt like. It just felt weird. And then as the game went on, I'm saying to myself, what is up with this play calling? Because then the play calling didn't on the offensive side of the ball. Look, the defensive side had its own things, right? We're going to tackle. But just watching it unfold.
Wait, who's going to tackle? Who's going to tackle? Because Buffalo didn't tackle. So
no, I didn't mean it in that fashion.
Oh, okay.
Except for Matt Milano. Matt Milano showed up in that first quarter. I can tell you that. Right? He was a stud. He's the one guy that showed up and bowled out, right? But I was just weird on watching. I'm like, who is this team? I probably know a little bit more about the Buffalo Bills as an outsider because of you, right? And I watch a little bit more Buffalo Bills football because of you, right? When our teams don't align on time, right? And I'm watching this and I'm just like, who is this team? I don't know this team that's out there. So that was my initial thoughts in the first first 20, 25 minutes of the game. In the first half, I was just like, wow, like who is it? I was waiting for it to kick in. I was waiting for the big stop. My son and I were watching the game. I said, all right, here comes the turnover. The Bills are going to force that turnover. The momentum's going to change. And here we go. And then it's going to be a ball game. And even when you scored to make it 14-7, I'm saying to myself, it's still really one-sided. It's still really one-sided. Like, I don't feel like Buffalo's in the game. They're down one score, but man, it just feels like Cincinnati is doing everything they want to do offensively and defensively. It was bizarre. It's the best way to put it. I didn't know what team I was watching there for a minute. So,
and you're right. They were able to do whatever they wanted to. Whatever they wanted to. If you think about it, the incomplete game, right? It was week 17, the incomplete game.
Oh.
Cincinnati went right down the field on us that game, right? Put up 7 points. We were able to respond, drive back, and Cole Beasley drops the ball on the third down play. We end up kicking the field goal. And then Cincinnati was ready to go down the field, and that's when everything happened. So if you think about it, for what, 4 straight drives, we did not do anything to them. And when I say anything, we didn't do anything to slow them down. And it boggles my mind how a week prior, they were on the verge of getting bounced to a very point. Well, actually, so were we. But they were on the verge of getting bounced to a Baltimore team with a backup quarterback and missing everybody else, right? How could we now come into this game and not be competitive, right? Just not be competitive. That game was over in the first quarter. I don't care what the score looked like at halftime, right? I don't. It doesn't matter. We were done. And I hear people talking about coaching decisions, which we have to get into, but it didn't matter, right? If you're punting, which was funny, you're punting for field position, but your defense hasn't done anything to stop them, then why are you punting? I don't care if you're at your own 20. Why are you punting? Because you're going to kick it, to their 20, and they'll just drive 80 yards on you because you haven't stopped them. They're getting 7, 8 yards a pop. Leslie Frazier, make an adjustment. Do something. Put hands on the guys. But, again, it starts up front. It all starts up front, and that's the problem. Right? When you look at that front four, whether it be Ed Oliver, whether it be Shaq Lawson, whether it be Greg Rousseau, whether it be Boogie Basham, whether it be the guy that I was never a fan of, AJ Epinesa, whether it be him, these guys did not show up to play. And when you needed them most, right, they're nowhere to be found. They're waiting for Von Miller to magically come off of injured reserve, to magically throw on his jersey and come running out there to be their savior. That's what they were waiting for, but he was not coming back. He was instilling his wisdom, his motivation to you when he knew that was it. And he was relying on you guys to learn everything you learned in preseason, in training camp, in mini camp, in the time that he was there. He was teaching you. Bruce Smith was out there teaching you. That you should have had that fire in your belly to go out there and do something. And you did nothing. You allowed backups to dominate you. To dominate you to the point, follow me here, right? You have the starter, then you have the backup. On the other side, you have the starter and you have the backup. If the backup is dominating the starter, then that starter really isn't starter quality. And if he's dominating the backup, then the backup isn't really backup quality. So thus what you're telling me is that defensive line that we had out there really is a bunch of third and fourth stringers that we're paying good money to, that now we're locked up in some of these contracts that we can't replace you. You allowed backups to dominate you, not to just beat you, right? Because in the game, when you have starter versus starter, right, you have quality versus quality, you're going to battle for 60 minutes. And at the end of those 60 minutes, I may win 5, you may win 5. Usually it's 4-4, right? And then it's that extra play here and it's that extra play there, right? We've seen plenty of times where Von Miller is getting blocked, right? That's going to happen, right? But it's that extra play where he's able to dip under, right? He gets that leverage and he's able to get that sack. That's that extra play or two, right? But when you look at a regular game, it's usually pretty even. That you have professionals on both sides, guys getting paid good money, right? And it's that little difference. But when this situation, when you have the backup that is just rolling through you, think about this. Running plays. Cincinnati's not a great running team. They are not a great running team. They have Mixon. We know about Mixon, right? But Mixon is not top caliber back, right? He's not that Christian McCaffrey type back. He's not that Saquon Barkley type back. But, he's enough to get the job done, right? P. Ryan, same thing, enough to get the job done. And so they're very worthy to have in that backfield, especially at their value, right?
And if I can add, Hasty, I thought played a good. He was a good RB2 in that game as well.
Absolutely. So now these guys, if you're a 3 to 4 yard back, right? Maybe we'll put you in a 2 to 4 range, a 2 to 4 yard back. When you're averaging 7, 8, 9 yards on a drive, there's a little bit of an issue, right? You're watching the defensive line get blown back 5 yards. First contact is 5 yards down the field. And then the momentum and the leverage, when the tackle is actually made, when somebody can actually put a hand on you, is 8 and 9 yards down the field. Cincinnati, for all their weapons and the prowess of throwing the ball, didn't need to throw the ball at all. They didn't need to throw it at all. Just hand it off left, right. And they ran between the tackles. That's the other problem. We're not talking about running wide, right? You may get a good crackback or, a good pin block on the side and then be able to run that. No, we're talking running right between the tackles where the meat of it is being handled. And you expect your front four to do something. They did nothing, Stevie D. They did nothing. And then what happens is that it permeates and it creates a cascading impact to your middle part of your defense, talking about your linebackers, right? Now they have linemen coming out after them. We don't have to double team anybody. Heck, we don't even need to block these four because they're not going to do anything. They'll just fall down, right? Then we go and we get the middle, right? And then it permeates to the secondary. So because these guys didn't show up, it just impacted the entire defense, right? Not to say that Tremaine Edmonds was just a world beater out there. You're right. Milano was the only one who showed up. But then I look at my secondary. We'll talk about this one in a minute, right? But I look at my secondary. My corners didn't do anything, right? Not only did my corners not do anything, it was your last game, obviously, that you wanted to post out there in social media, Jordan Poyer. Loved you to death. Notice I put it in past tense. Loved you to death, but didn't need to have you sit there and go on social media talking about thank you, Bills Mafia, on 2 or 3 days before one of the biggest games. You could have written that little Instagram or whatever type post. You could have put that out there when the season was truly over, but maybe in your mind it was over because the way that you played, it was over. Right? So I look at this defense. I really want to attack Leslie Frazier, but maybe Leslie Frazier saw the same thing that I saw, same thing that you saw, and the same thing that everybody else saw, and said, why go through this? These guys aren't here to play, and we're not going to show up. So maybe that's what Leslie Frazier was thinking. I'll take a moment here, Stevie D. I'll let you continue because I'm a little parched.
You said a lot there. Tre'Davious White, where was he? And he's been a shell, right? And I know he came back late in the season, and it takes some time to get into game shape coming back from that injury. But he was a killer in that game, right? Not having him play the way you expect Trey White to play, right? And so I was a little shocked there on his play. Really, I don't have much to say on the defensive side of the ball because I thought they just had you, and they knew exactly where. It's like almost like they knew where you were going to be and did where you weren't, and they just owned you with that game plan. Now, whether Leslie Frazier could have, make adjustments to figure that out and whatnot. It's surprising that it didn't seem like there were adjustments being made to stop the Bengals, right? And look, I feel for you. I was just more disappointed on Josh had to run for his life again.
Well, hold on. Don't go to the offensive side yet.
All right.
We're about to finish up on the defense because that's a whole nother topic. So, and Gerald, you're correct. Tre'Davious does look like he lost a step, and if he wasn't ready to come back, we're going to attack the coaches in a minute. But if he wasn't ready to come back, then why force him back? Right?
Well, was he not ready to come back, or you feel like you're ready to come back, and then you're on the field and you're just not ready, right?
That's something that the coaches should know this, see this, right?
But is your secondary depleted? Well, who else are you going to put out there at that point in time?
I have a number one draft pick in Kaiir Elam.
Right, okay, but he was out there.
Well, he only came out there because Dane Jackson got hurt.
So Dane was the number 2 corner behind White.
Tre'Davious White, Dane Jackson, then Kaiir Elam.
Now, Kylie, was he your nickel back?
Our nickel is Taron Johnson.
Okay.
So
Elam only comes in to give a breather. then.
Yes. Now he played a lot in the Miami game. Remember, he had those big breakups, had the interception and breakup. Here's my thing. Before Trey came off of IR, right? And I know this is hindsight and, Monday morning quarterback, whatever. But before he came off of IR, you had Benford, who ultimately ended up getting hurt, right? The kid out of Villanova. Yeah. You had Kyer Elam, the first-round draft pick. And then you had Dane Jackson, right? Dane, experienced veteran, right? Even though he's young, experienced veteran. And then you had the two rookies. And these guys were playing well, right? Everybody was excited to bring back the all-pro of Trey White, right? But you have to understand, right? He missed all of minicamp, all of training camp. He missed the first 11 weeks of the season, right? And now you're sticking him in as if, all of that doesn't matter, right? Is that what we're thinking, that it doesn't matter for minicamp? Then why do we have it, right? Why do we have the preseason besides having the games for the owners to get the money? But why are we having it, right? We know why we have it, because I need to get you in game shape. I need to get you acclimated to the scheme. I need you to get just in sync with the players on the field. So there is a reason to have that, right? And to throw him out there and expect him to be at the high level, it just isn't going to happen. The right thing to do may have been to put Trey in at DB3. You think about that, right? Hello, Leslie. Hello, McDermott. Yeah, you can bring him off and let him work his way back from DB3 to DB2. DB2 back to his normal spot, a DB1, right? That way he can still play, but now he's not forced to take on the number one wide receivers that are out there that are killing him, right? I wanted to get into this later, but now that we're talking about Trey, this is just, it bugged me before the snap, and it bugged me after the play, and it has bugged me now. I'm going to ask you a question, Stevie D. All right?
I'm ready.
It's third and 4. Okay? You're driving in for potentially a touchdown or a field goal. You're the defensive coordinator. Your team has got to stop them to definitely stop that touchdown. You have got to stop the touchdown. Tell me the alignment of your defensive back on this play, 3rd and 4. Where would you like to put him?
I'm playing up.
Why?
Why would you do such? First down.
I don't understand. Leslie Frazier, who is supposed to be a great defensive coordinator, says, no Tre'Davious White, no all of my defensive backs. I want you 7 yards back. You're going to give a 7-yard cushion on a 3rd and 4 when you're losing, and this touchdown could basically put the game out of reach? And what does Joe Burrow do? Just a one-step drive. Hey, Burrow must have lost his mind. I'm surprised the ball came out so clean, right? Because Burrow's looking at Chase. Chase is looking at Burrow like, dog, I'm here. Here. He took one step and threw that across. And by the time Trey had time to react, right, because he's not coming forward, right? His first step is going back. And then he goes, and Chase is just right there. He makes the tackle. 6 yards down the field on a 3rd and 4. That's good. You save the touchdown there, right? What are you thinking, Leslie Frazier? Stevie D, I almost lost it. Right? I've been trying to, this whole new year, that I was trying to do better. I really was trying to do better. And as much as I was trying to do better, they just want to draw you back, right? They want to keep pulling you back. And that's all they're doing, right? They're trying to get me to be the old Vince. No, I have a new leaf, and it hurts inside. After 13 seconds, right? That's when I decided it's a whole new leaf. And Leslie Frazier, you really pushed my buttons there that game. I'm going to tell you right now, Leslie Frazier, you really did. And I'm still good. I think I'm still good. I'm good for the fact, Stevie D, I told you the game was over at the end of the first quarter. So I'm good, right? I had an inner peace with me as I watched some of the most idiotic defensive play calls.
You know, it's interesting when you say that, right? Because when you follow a team and you know all the inner workings, you knew it wasn't your day. And when you said you was at peace, you just knew you were getting outcoached on every aspect of the game, and you weren't going to make the adjustment all of a sudden at halftime on both sides of the ball because you needed to make two sets of adjustments. And
You
so
did.
I'm with you in that sentiment of the game was over. Now, anything can happen in the second half. An injury can happen. Next thing you know, the momentum changes or you get a big turnover and something like that may happen. But just on the face value of what you saw in that first half, the team didn't have it. I just didn't see the juice. I didn't see the juice to want to play to make it to the next round.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And I don't know if this is the right time to say the comment,
Say
but
it.
Roger Saffold and one other player, and I forget who it was. I think it was a defensive player. And they said it's not an excuse, but it's like we hit a wall as a team. That's what he said. An emotional wall. And again, it's not an excuse because the Bengals played a hell of a football game, right? If you flip the coin toss 50 times heads and tails, the Bengals will probably win 48 or 50 because everything they did just seemed to work, right, in their favor. It's just I don't like to give an excuse, but it was an interesting statement because yes, the Bengals were on the field when Damar went down, but it wasn't his teammate. The emotions are different. You can feel for your brother on the football field because you're in the NFL Players Union. You're a small unity of players, right? Former players, current players. You can feel for that. But at the end of the day, those Bengals players went home to their families and didn't have to worry about the next 4 days trying to figure out if their teammate was going to live or die. And so the only thing that I can relate to a little bit of it is when Jets lost Dennis Byrd to the neck injury. We won that next game against Buffalo. We weren't a good football team, though. That is a difference. And then the Jets crashed and burned the rest of the year, but they weren't a good football team. So I can hear what Roger's saying about hitting a wall. I'm not giving the Buffalo Bills an excuse, but an emotional wall, I can understand that to a degree.
I will not allow, and I hear you, but I will not allow that excuse. And I'll tell you why. There's multiple things. You want to talk about hitting a wall. You look at what happened with Kim Pagula, right? That's the owner of your franchise, right? Going through a health scare, health crisis. You want to talk about hitting a wall and things that happened. Yes, there were two massive snowstorms that took lives there in the city of Buffalo. You want to talk about hitting a wall. You had a racist shooter go into the supermarket this year and gun down 10 people. You want to talk about hitting a wall. You want to talk about, because of that snowstorm, you having to lose a home game and travel to Detroit the week before Thanksgiving to play a game. You want to talk about hitting a wall, you got to go back to Detroit to play the Thanksgiving
what you're all
game.
saying, right? Think of all
But
the
hold
stuff
on.
that you're talking about.
Hold on. All of that, you still continued to prevail, right? You want to talk about hitting a wall, you have your brother go down on the field. It's a gut punch. But out of all of that silver lining, there's two. One to be seen right away, one to be seen in weeks. The first silver lining was to see that Damar Hamlin was able to open his eyes. Part of that silver lining, not only did he open his eyes, the first thing he said was, "Did we win?" Showing his bond with the team, his love for the team. The silver lining was seeing Damar Hamlin getting on a live stream with the team during a meeting. That's the juices just coming through you, right? The silver lining was being able to have Damar Hamlin come to the facility after everything that he went through, all the love and everything, showing and all that coming through. right? You went out there, you destroyed the Patriots. Well, you didn't really destroy the Patriots, but you beat the Patriots, right? You went through all of that, right? Then you keep going on, and then you have the Miami game, right? And Damar sends a message to you guys, right? And you play through that game. So if there was going to be hitting a wall, it would have happened along any one of those events, right? That didn't happen. And then you play the team where this all started in week 17, and guess who comes to your locker room? Damar Hamlin. Guess who is in the stands? Damar Hamlin. If you can't get up for this game, out of all of the games, you can't get up for this game. Don't give me this crap about hitting a wall. Not you, Stevie D. Don't give me this crap about hitting a wall. No, you didn't show up. And now you're looking for an excuse. And you want to look back and you want to say, oh, it was because of the snow. Oh, it was because of the owner. Oh, it was because of the shooting. Oh, it was because of this. Oh, it was because of that. We hit a wall. No, you got your butt whooped. That's what happened. And if you're going to use that as an excuse, I don't need you on the team. I don't need people on the team that are looking for excuses and cop-outs. I want somebody that's going to stand up to the mic and say, you know what? We got our butt whooped. And I'm sure going to tell you that in 2023, I am not getting my butt whooped again like what happened on this field. You give me a player like that, I'll sign up to have 53 of those guys and get rid of the whole roster. Because you're taking accountability, you're taking the onus, and you're not using anything else as an excuse. You're taking accountability for yourself. And that's what's wrong in America today. You and I talk about it about other things, is that people fail to take accountability for themselves. So to tell me that, oh, I hit a wall, then go hit the wall back in Tennessee. Go hit the wall somewhere else, because I don't need you with that lame excuse on the Buffalo Bills. And not only was that an excuse, the other silver lining that I talk about, if you really wanted to do something for the Buffalo Bills, if you really wanted to do something for the city of Buffalo, if you really wanted to do something for Bills Mafia, if you really wanted to do something for yourself, and you wanted to do something for Damar Hamlin, you would have gone past Cincinnati, beat Cincinnati, gone to Atlanta, beat Kansas City, gone to Arizona, and beat whoever came from the NFC and raised that trophy and said, this is for you, Damar. You would have raised that trophy and said, this is for you, the city of Buffalo. You would have raised that trophy and said, this is for Bills Mafia. And you know what you do the next day? You decompress because you say, you know what? That was a lot. And now I can relax. But no, you're a bunch of whiny little punks.
This is stage 2 is the anger. I know I brought it on with that. Right, stage 2. No, I mean, for a player, I hear what you're saying, right? Because really, you knew Damar was in a good spot on Thursday too, right? So it's not like you were waiting weeks to hear of his condition, right? Because he's not improving. You know, he had really good improvement at 4 days after, right? So, that's, you know, I'm with you on hitting a wall. I just thought it was an interesting statement by Roger and one other teammate. Both said it. I can't for the life of me name the other player, but why I remember Saffold, I have no clue. But yeah.
Well, I think he's a free agent, so you don't have to worry about that name too much longer. All right, let's go to the offensive side of the ball. We're going to be a little shorter, not as long-winded on the offensive side, and you were bringing it up. Offense, we got punched in the mouth on the offensive line. It is what it is, right? I thought our offensive line was going to be good, right? I thought so. Dawkins, he's Walter Payton Man of the Year. It's hard to say something bad about a Walter Payton Man of the Year. He does good things. I'm trying to. This is the nice Vince trying to come out, right? So
Can we move on to the next stage in the same show?
it's hard for me to go there. Roger Saffold, we already talked about him. Mitch Morse, the highly coveted free agent center. They want to talk, about all that he does. Ryan Bates. You notice I'm not saying a lot on these guys, Stevie D. Ryan Bates. They got nothing there. Spencer Brown. A very valid point, Gerald. Very valid point. Spencer Brown, right? You walk around. Spencer Brown is an interesting character because he's like this big, ginormous tackle, right? And whenever there's a skirmish, you see Spencer Brown, in the middle of it, kind of jacking a guy up. I never noticed, and I'm gonna have to go back. But I'm curious if he's always pulling somebody when the referee's standing right there. Because that's where you see him, right? You envision this massive guy just dominating, and he gets beat constantly, right? Where are you imposing your will? Except for when the referee's there, and I believe it that you're holding the guy up like, don't do this to Josh, right? Isaiah McKenzie, wasn't used that much, which isn't a bad thing. Cole Beasley, I already told you, Cole has caught some good catches, right? I'll give him credit, but I didn't want him back on the team because of not only the way he left, but also while he was with the team, right? You're not a team player, so I didn't need you there. I will say the positive, even though it didn't turn out in yards and, to change the game, was that James Cook actually really was RB1 for the Buffalo Bills, right? It actually was a passing of the torch from Devin Singletary to James Cook, right? Even though we don't use James Cook the way we need to use James Cook, it was good to see him back there. Gabe Davis, we talked about this before. Gabe Davis is an interesting player because third-round pick, right? Not highly coveted at the wide receiver position. Made some great catches his rookie year. Has the blow-up game of all blow-up games, right, in the divisional round, 8 for 204 touchdowns, which then increased the expectations on him. And his game may not be there to be that number 2, potentially number 1 wide receiver. You get what you get, right? And as a lower pick with, medium expectations, you're kind of expected to have some drops, right? You're not expected to get as many touches, and he's going to be interested to see if they can pull him back. But where I want to go with this one, Stevie D, is with Ken Dorsey, right? And I left Josh out for a reason. I want to go to Ken Dorsey, and I know you had something about Josh, right? Let me just hit here, and then I'll pass it to you. When you look at Ken Dorsey, I was all in favor of Ken Dorsey coming in as the offensive coordinator because I wanted the continuity, right? He was there as the quarterback's coach, right? Josh knew him, right? They had that rapport. I believe in that, right? In order to be successful in the league, you can't have a lot of change, right? I have to know what you're thinking. You have to know what I'm thinking. You know what works for me and what doesn't. And so Ken Dorsey knew that, right? And so instead of having to rediscover that through, the training camp and the games, right, where you could have some significant losses, bring this guy in, right? Plus, he saw what Dable was doing, and, if you mix a little what Dable was doing, you mix a little what I'm doing, all of a sudden, we may have a better version of the 2022 Buffalo Bills or the 2021 Buffalo Bills. But I didn't see that, right? What I saw was a guy that, how do I say this nicely, Stevie D? A guy who was incompetent. That's what I saw, right?
You were going to say it nicely.
Well, yeah, there were some other things that I could have said, and I think incompetent is a softer version of what I really wanted to say. But it was incompetence, right? Because the incompetence tells you that certain down and distances require certain plays, right? Every once in a while, you could go off script, right? And going off script, you may hit the home run. But to go pass, punt, pass, punt, right? You have yet to establish any running game. And let me ask you a question, Ken Dorsey. Let me ask you a question, Josh Allen. If I go pass, punt, pass, punt, what in the world am I doing a play action fake for? Please explain it. Let me give you the art of the play action fake, right? That is when you go run, and then you do a play action fake, and the linebackers and the safeties are like, oh, here they go running again. They take that step forward, right, because of the play fake, and then you pull it back, and now your guys are wide open downfield, right? That's how it works. There's no easier way to explain this. But if I am throwing the ball and they know that I'm not going to run the ball, why are you even wasting the motion of doing this? Nobody's stepping forward, let alone your offensive line is surrendering themselves to the defensive line. The linebackers and safeties are just like, do what you want to do. We're going to stay here in just, seven guys, in the secondary, just let you guys just do what you want to do. Go ahead, Stevie D.
So Ken Dorsey, yes, and we're going to talk about that, I'm sure. Gerald was spot on with the deep ball there, right? Ken Dorsey is a rookie play caller. He's a rookie play caller, right? He's never done it before. So it's interesting that in crunch time, in a spot that he's never been, you're on the hot seat on those calls, and he burned. He got burned. But this is what's so funny about the NFL. 2 weeks earlier, he was a hot candidate for head coach. After that game, it's null and void. I know Carolina was interested at one point in him, but it's funny how you go from, because Josh, the offense goes, Josh Allen, you scoring points, all this stuff, you're becoming a hot commodity. And then all of a sudden, in crunch time, owners and GMs are seeing it like, oh, man, his play calling in a game that really mattered was not there. And then he fell off the face of the earth. For you and I have talked about it, right? So quickly, now we say sometimes, how you say, stop stealing my coaches, and the other half, you're like, you got to go, because it could be that quick. You go from a hot candidate to nothing, and nobody's ever heard of you. To next thing you know, you're getting interviews because you shut down the greatest show on turf, right? So it's funny how that works. How hot 1 minute you are, and the next minute you're not, and all of a sudden you can't coach, right? And so, but as far as the deep ball goes, when talking about Josh Allen, it's mind blowing to me the amount of throws Josh has to make. I say has to make per game. That's 30 yards or more downfield. It's almost like he's got a quota in his head that I have to throw it at least 25 times, 35 yards or 30 yards or more downfield. Because what's interesting is you do have plays underneath. You don't have to attempt the long ball, right? It's like what we say. It's like you got to respect the run. You also got to respect the short pass, right? Because we all know if you only throw short passes, they know you're not going to go deep, and the teams, they all move up, a.k.a. the Jets. Part of the Jets problem, right? When you throw it within 5 to 10 yards, the defense knows that's all you're going to do. Alex Smith for a few years with the Chiefs, and it doesn't work. Yeah, you're going to get your completions, but you're not – they know what's coming. And it's almost like we know you're going to go deep. We're going to keep our players back because we know you're not going to go underneath. But you're missing out on that 6 to 8 yards or whatever every time. There's somebody there. And that's the mind-blowing to me that, Josh, if you are elite, you can't miss that, right? There was other elite quarterbacks that have played or playing the game right now or have played the game that recognize that, and that's also what made them so great and why their numbers always look so good, that their turnovers were lower. Josh Allen leads the league in turnovers, Since 2018, he's got 80, right? He's got 80. That's a lot of turnovers, and a lot of turnovers this year. He had a lot of turnovers this year. Why? Are you forcing things downfield in coverages that are there, and you're making those mistakes? It's okay to play that short game because it's going to open up your deep game. And I don't know. And I'm not a Bills fan, right? I'm a Bills fan for you when my team's not playing and stuff like that in the playoff. And I'm saying to myself, what in the world is going on here? What are you doing? What are you doing? And that's the maturity that Josh Allen has to start seeing in the offseason. He needs to go and watch his film and say, wow, yeah, I could be so much better. Your turnovers will go down. Your completion percentage goes up.
But here's the interesting thing. Here's the interesting thing. I remember in the Pittsburgh game last year, Pittsburgh said, we're going to blitz you, right? And Allen did nothing but hit the quick 1- and 3-step drops. Never let that rush get to him. To the point where Pittsburgh was forced to come out of that defense, and then he was able to take the shots downfield. You just like the running game, right? And to your point, just like the running game, you establish something, you change the mindset of the defense, right? I don't have to go deep, right? Exactly what you said. You're spot on, right? You have Beasley, you have McKenzie, you have Shakir. These guys should be running drags and pick plays left and right, right? I don't like the team. I don't like the player. But look at the way the Patriots ran that offense, right? You didn't know what was coming. And if you decided that you were going to try to take Moss out when they had Moss, try to take them out, right? You had Edelman or Welker coming across the middle. You had the running backs for swing passes. Do we do that? No. Right? Do we have angle routes for the running back? No. But yet you have these pass-catching running backs, right? Himes is supposed to have this great speed, and Cook is supposed to be so slippery. Why aren't you using that? That's all that underneath. Guess what, Stevie D? 1st and 10, I run a drag route for 4 yards. What is it?
2nd and 6.
Okay, very good. Is that what they deem a manageable type down and distance? 2nd and 6? Stevie D.
For your offense, 2nd and 6 is like, that's nothing for you guys.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this question. It's 1st and 10, and I throw a 40-yard bomb under duress. It's incomplete. What is it? 2nd and 10. I decide I'm going to throw another 40-yard bomb under duress. What is it? It's 3rd and 10. Down in distance, right, which you all want to talk about, you're doing it to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? What if on that drag, McKenzie or Beasley, they get 8 yards? Now it's 2nd and 2. That is gold.
Yeah.
That is gold.
You start falling in love because during the season against teams, your offensive is explosive, and you know you can throw it here, right? And you can get those big chunk plays, right?
Yes.
And so you get away from getting it to 2nd and 4 or 3rd and 3, right? Because you're like, oh, 3rd and 10, that's not a problem. I can do it. Dude, when you get up against the better teams, it's not so easy to convert those 3rd and 10s often, right?
That's right.
There's a lot to that, using short passes to set up short yard. Look, even if it was 2nd and 3, you can take your shot downfield because now it's 3rd and 3, right? And that's with the amount of weapons you have and having them going all over the place. Josh Allen with his escapability, you could pick up those 3 yards. Like, you know, it's funny watching it when the Jets have played the Bills, and the Bills would get to like a 3rd and 3. I'm saying to Richard, I'm like, you might as well just reset and just give him the 1st down, because you got to hold Buffalo to the 3rd and long. You give Buffalo the 3rd and the short, there's too many options, and Josh in his legs. How do you stop it?
That's
Not
right.
on 3rd and 3, you can't. The offensive team is lethal. Why wouldn't you get more to that down and distance, and then nobody can stop you? And it's what you said earlier. taking your shot downfield. Well, 3rd and 10, now you got to take your shot again downfield, to get the 10 yards.
Oh, hold on. Don't forget, one of those shots downfield was a play action fake. And you're right, Gerald. It looked, but
can you put
Gerald
back up? I didn't read it. I was
sure. And you're right. It did look like we were having trouble throwing in the snow on our own field, but that's because we didn't show up. And we don't have problems throwing in the snow. We just didn't show up. So Stevie D,
here's the thing though. Here it's interesting. So I'm glad you brought that up with the snow and had trouble in the snow. And I don't know if you were going to cover this piece. Stephon Diggs, went to Josh. You got to bring the ball up, right? He motioned him during the game, and there was some low throws. You wonder on certain throws how bad the UCL really is.
Yeah.
Now he's declining surgery, which is interesting because he's going to let rest help it. Now a UCL is different from a baseball player to a football. A tear is a tear, right? But your throwing motion is different. And I think that's why he was able to continue to play and still be able to throw the ball 60 yards downfield. But when you have that little twinge, and I've had it, right? When you have that twinge, how does that affect your short intermediate games? Or you make a throw and you're not telling anybody that you're hurting. And then it affects your next X amount of throws. Because I can tell you when I was younger, when I did it, I didn't know that. But back then, my parents didn't know about a UCL back when I was a kid. But what I had to do in between innings of a game was I had to squeeze a tennis ball in the dugouts to get the pain to stop so I can go out in the next half inning to go play defense. So having similar pain of what Josh is going through, you wonder if it's hurting at certain points of the game when he's throwing the ball. Now all of a sudden he's short hopping it or it's really low and he's not telling people. Because in fairness to Josh Allen, before the Jets game, I didn't see any of that. I didn't see any of those short throws. And then all of a sudden you started seeing it.
Before the Jets game, yes.
Right? Now all of a sudden it's there. And I think he's at times is in more pain and he's not letting it on and he's missing his throws.
You guys cost us a shot.
on a clean play. I know. On a clean play. I know. What's the matter? I can't touch the guy's elbow. I mean, what's up with that?
Oh, it's two-hand touch. Man, what are you doing?
Well, we're going there. We're going there, right? And that's probably another topic on another day. But
yeah, we are.
My son will be changing my diapers, and he'll be playing two-hand touch football now. Is what it's going to come to the NFL. But in all fairness, I'm not giving Josh Allen an out, right? But I'm just saying it's a legit injury. Right, it's a legit.
No, you're spot on, because that was what, week 8. I believe that was week 8 for that first game with you guys when that happened. It was either week 8 or week 9 when that happened. And from that point forward, Josh was a different player. Right, we saw Josh in week 1, week 2, week 3, but that after that injury. Completely different player. Never really, because remember, he didn't sit out any time, right, to even let it heal or rest, right? And that brings me to something here, Stevie D. We've talked about the players. I kind of went in a little bit on Leslie Frazier. I am willing to give Brandon Beane a pass. Okay? The reason why I'm giving him a pass is that he doesn't have an unlimited open checkbook to just go sign anybody and everybody. He was able to get the most coveted free agent out there, which was a need for our team, and that's in Von Miller. I give him the pass because he and his scouts talked to me and selected Kaiir Elam with their number 1 pick. I give them the pass. No, in all seriousness, we knew that they needed to go after a corner, right? And they went and got Kaiir Elam. The rest of the draft class, they had a really good draft, right? I was all excited about that draft. So I give him And on paper, some of his free agent signings, I love bringing back Jordan Phillips, right? I like Shaq Lawson coming back. Thought that Roger Saffold was going to be this over the top.
You had a Super Bowl roster coming into the season. Everybody had you as favorites. Bean did everything he needed to because everybody was saying the Bills were Super Bowl favorites. So if people are coming out and say Bean this and Bean that, man, you're playing Monday morning quarterback because everybody had you guys in the game. So in fairness to Bean, you had.
But here's who does not get a pass. Mr. Trust the Process, right? You have yet to win me over, Sean McDermott. I've gone in highs and lows with Sean McDermott, right? I've gone in highs and lows. But I'm going to tell you, I have watched game in and game out where Sean's mind is that of a defensive coordinator who thinks that he knows the answer and should be telling the head coach what to do. When you become a head coach, and we've talked about this, there's different tiers of head coaches, right? You have that bottom tier of head coaches who can't get out of their own way and they get fired after 1 to 2 years, and that's who they are. Then you have head coaches who just basically kind of ride along, right? They may be 8-8, they are 8-9 now, or 4-13, but they're just there. They're not really doing anything. Then you have that next tier of coaches, which are really the coaches to bring you to the next level, right? That's where McDermott is, right? And a lot of those coaches are defensive coaches. A lot of those coaches are disciplinary type coaches, right? That have to steady that ship, right? Because the previous coach just let everybody do whatever they wanted to and things are going wild, right? And you got to get them under control. And we've seen a lot of those coaches that are good, right? And then you have the championship quality coaches. And that's where you have to wonder, have the Buffalo Bills capped out with Sean McDermott? I say yes. Now, I'm going to take this a step further, Stevie D, and this is where it may get, may rub some people the wrong way. I think it's time for Sean McDermott to go. I think that his time with Buffalo has run its course. He has steadied the ship. We went through 20 different coaches over the last 20 years, it seems like, right? We were firing a coach every year. Every 2 years, we were firing somebody, right? Because you had bad hires, and you had to steady the ship. Well, now we're here. But here's the problem. In today's NFL, you only have a certain window in order to get things done. Because once you start getting to the other side of that, Josh Allen gets too old, right? Matt Milano gets too old. Ed Oliver gets too old. Name a player that the window closes. Diggs gets too old, right? And now you have to.
Right, Poyer's probably going to be out. Micah Hyde is coming back from a severe injury. He's getting
absolutely.
Older. It's all over. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so as that window closes, you lose that opportunity. Now you have to decide, can we reload? Well, with all these contracts you got out there, you're hoping that Brandon Beane pulls magic and grabs a bunch of low round draft picks that could be starters. Or do you then say, what did Tampa do? Right? I was here when it happened. I was not in favor of it. But at the end of the day, you have to look at what Bruce Allen and what the Glazers did. They said to themselves, we got a window that's closing. We got Derek Brooks is getting old. Rondé Barber's getting older, right? I got John Lynch getting older. I got Mike Allstott. I got Warwick Dunn. These guys are getting older. What are we going to do? We had a good run. We just couldn't get over the hump. What do we do? And they relieved Tony Dungy. And I'm going to tell you down here, it reverberated. Initially, people were highly upset, right? Then they brought in Gruden, right? The hired gun, They paid whatever they had to pay in draft picks and salary and compensation, but they said, this guy can get us over the top, right? He comes in, new offense, new quarterback, receiver, Charlie Garner coming in, right? Joe Jaravicious on the team, right? He's got kind of molded into his own to run his offense.
Johnson.
Keyshawn, that's right. And now you're looking at a team that was averaging 11 points, is now averaging 27 points. Plus, you got this stout defense that's still intact, right? Kept Monty Kiffin. Now, this is for argument, but you do so happen to go against your team in the championship game. You go against your former team. They don't change their audible calls. Their center goes off on a binger in Mexico. So there's a lot of things that went sideways that game, right?
And Bill Callahan has never been a coach again in the NFL.
He hasn't. He hasn't.
Well, head coach anyway.
But you look at what happens, and you come back with the ring, right?
And then he destroys the team after that. Because Gruden
he destroys the team. And the guy that left that was unceremoniously jettison goes to another team, wins a championship. But I say all of that to say, I look at the body of work that Sean McDermott has done, right? I question a lot of things that he does. The frivolous use of the timeouts, right? The unwillingness to challenge when you need to challenge. And I think the biggest one is the inability to get your team motivated to play in this game, right? That's on Sean McDermott. And to allow your coaches to just run crazy out there on both sides of the offensive and defensive side of the ball. You don't make this move without having a known replacement. I'm saying this openly. You can't do it, right? Because the last thing I want you to do is get rid of McDermott and be stuck with Todd Bowles maybe, or
Dick Duran coming out of retirement.
Dick Duran coming back, right? Cliffy. Yeah, we don't want any of that. But there is a guy who is waiting and waiting and waiting for that right offer. And this is the right offer. This is the right time. This is the right coach for them to go after Sean Payton. Yes, I said it. Yes, I said it. You have to give up the compensation. That's fine. I'm not worried about the compensation. I'm worried about being able to get to the promised land before that window closes. Sean Payton is an offensive-minded guy that would bring that to Josh and Diggs, Davis, and everybody else. You just have to worry about the defensive side because in Tampa, they left Monty Kiffin in place. I don't know if I would leave Leslie Frazier in place. Go ahead, Stevie D.
Sean Payton to the Buffalo Bills is a no-brainer. And you pay that compensation because Sean, what he did in New Orleans, right, where nobody knew of New Orleans, right? And then there's Katrina, right? Steve Gleason, he had to go through the Steve Gleason ALS and navigate so much waters he had to navigate there. And they were perennial Super Bowl in that mix for going to a Super Bowl every year. A guy like Sean Payton, a guy like Andy Reid, the proven guys that win year after year, when they're available, franchises should just open up the wallet and say, what do I need to bring you here? It more so for the Buffalo Bills because you have all of this talent ready now, right? And then you take the mind of Sean Payton with Josh Allen and James Cook, who's been coming on. He's been coming on for weeks. That's why Singletary's now watching, right? Mm-hmm. James Cook is ready to take over, right? And you have Stephon Diggs and what Sean can do with your second and third and fourth wide receivers on the roster and get everybody involved. I think is a no-brainer if Sean wants to come to Buffalo, right? He's got to want to come to Buffalo first and foremost. But if I'm the Pagulas, I am having that conversation with him behind the scenes or through a third-party intermediary to say, hey, If Buffalo came up, would you do it?
I'll do it for you. I will do it for you. Sean, what's going on? What do you need?
That's why if you're Denver, you have interest in him in Denver. If you're Arizona, any one of those teams that have an opening, the whining and dining that needs to happen to get him to go there, you should do it, because generational coaches only come around once in a blue moon. It just doesn't happen. Andy Reid being let go in Philly, he got snatched up by the Chiefs like that. And look what he did to that franchise really quickly. Really quickly.
But see, here's the thing. Here's the thing that makes Buffalo such a no-brainer for Sean Payton. Okay? All the teams that are out there looking at a head coach that are trying to wine and dine him, like you said, right? They have flaws up and down the roster. Thus, the coach got fired, right? These are also the same teams that are drafting early. A lot of them don't have established quarterbacks or have a quarterback at all. A lot of them have deficiencies on both offensive and defensive side of the ball, right? To your point, where Buffalo is now, giving up that compensation doesn't hurt Buffalo. You go to one of these bottom teams and you have to give up two first-round picks, that hurts the development of that team for 2 years. Right?
That's why I said Denver's got no shot. They got no picks now next year. Well,
yeah,
they want 2 first-rounders. And they want 2 first-rounders. They won't have a first-round pick until 2030. No, I'm kidding, but,
Exactly. And Sean Payton can look at that situation and say, no, I don't want to go into that, right? Because that's not good for me. Let me look at Carolina. That's not good for me. Let me look at Eric. Not good for me. Let me look at Buffalo. This is the perfect situation. I have a guy who could be a MVP candidate for the league. I have a guy who could be an MVP candidate at wide receiver in the league, right?
Both on the contract for a while.
I have a legitimate young running back, right? Not going to call him Alvin Kamara, but I could see a little bit of Alvin Kamara in him, right? I just need to get a bigger back like Latavius Murray or Ingram like they had there, right? I can put this out here, right? And then I have guys on my defense that are up and coming or guys that are established. I have a guy that is an all-pro at linebacker, right, that we locked up. There's a lot that I have here. I don't have to start from ground. And if I got to give 2 first-round picks to give them, gone. Plus, I know that my GM and the scouts – hold on. Plus, I know my GM and my scouts have done an outstanding job of being able to find those hidden gems. They found a starting quarterback in the NFL at the 6th-round pick. So you know these guys can do it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, what if he told you I need a retractable roof on the new stadium? I'm not hanging out in Buffalo in the cold weather on the sidelines.
We're changing the design. They released the first iteration. That nobody's broken ground. You haven't bought any materials. Hold up. We do what we have to do, because you know what? This is your chance. Very rarely do you get to this point, right? We have been fortunate enough where in the 90s we went through that, right? But then look how long it took us to get back to this point, and we still haven't even gotten there, right? But we're so close. We're on the precipice of getting there. Do whatever you have to do. In poker, you push all your chips in the center of the table, right? Yeah, you might get beat. It might happen. But, doing what you have to do to win while you have all of these assets in place, do it. And so that is where I think the change needs to come. So I'm decompressing a little bit here, Stevie D. It's maybe I've suppressed it, right? And disappointment. But I think at the end of the day, I'm thankful for a good ride through 18 weeks, right? A little painful at the end of the season. Painful when we lost to you guys. Painful when we lost to Minnesota and Miami, right? Painful that those were painful games because we could have won any one of those 3 games, right? Miami putting us in a sauna to play. I mean, what's that? fumbling at the goal line, at your own goal line when you just need to take a knee. What is that, right? And you guys really beat us. We hung around, but you guys beat us that game, right? So really, I would call it one loss, right? We should have had one loss. We ended up with 4, right? Now, before we go, unless there's something else you want to say, before we go, I want to address this Eli Apple situation, okay? Because just like on the show today, I wanted to complain about the officiating and the lack of calls, because there was one where I don't remember, the defensive back came in on a blitz, hit Josh in the helmet. I remember, there was a play where Mahomes got hit in the helmet. Flags came flying out. I remember when Brady got hit in the helmet. Flags come flying, right? Josh gets hit in the head and nothing happens. Very next play, the guy goes to the ground and not pushed and tackles Josh by his the lower part of his body, which is supposed to be against the rules, right? You can't go low on a quarterback. The Tom Brady rule.
No. As long as he has the ball, you can. If the ball's in his hand,
he didn't
go low.
He didn't have the ball. He had thrown the ball. This wasn't a sack, right? And Josh gets up, right? These back-to-back plays where calls should have been made. But I'm not complaining about that, because, as I said, we didn't come to play. If we didn't come to play, I can't complain about anything there, right? Stephon Diggs took it hard, right? We all remember the iconic picture, right, of disappointment from the AFC Championship game a couple years ago, when Diggs is standing on the field all by himself, just watching the celebration happen, right? And then, what transpired last year was disbelief, right? And so now you have this year, and, Diggs, made his statement, left, went to social media, because different stories were coming out, and everybody handles it a different way. And I'm not here to debate how Stephon Diggs handled the postgame. All right. Actually, I don't have a problem with it. Let me deviate from where I'm going, and I'll tell you why, Stevie D. We all remember Barry Bonds in the World Series.
Yeah, we talked about it. How many times we talk about that?
Bonds has a great year, but has a bad postseason. The Pirates lose. Right? Pirates lose. Reporters come straight to Barry Bonds. No cool down period, nothing. Bonds already kind of a little amped up and just goes off, right? And now all of a sudden he's persona non grata to all of the media, right? When you invaded his space during a very emotional type thing, it should be, fair game for whatever I say, and you should not be able to hold it against me. Well, the same goes for Stephon Diggs, right? I'm giving him that pass, right? Back to back, right? Just heartbreak, loss in the postseason. And he says, you know what? I'm out of here. I don't feel like talking to anybody about this. You do need to – go ahead.
You can't walk out on your team and your coach. I have no problem with you stiffing the media, because – they ask you these stupid questions. What do you think, you moron? I just fought in this game. It didn't go well. I'm pissed off, right? There's so much emotions on an athlete after a game when you lose. Even a regular game, you're upset.
So the one thing I'm going to say to you, CBD, I don't know. You don't know, right? I would tend to think, based on the character that I have seen over the last 3+ years from Stephon Diggs, that it was not necessarily I am walking out on you, but rather something was happening and I am removing myself from that situation. Sometimes you have to do what appears to be the wrong thing to do the right thing. Right? Because we don't know in that locker room. You already talked about where he was telling Josh, you got to get the balls up. We already saw on camera where Diggs and Allen, and really Diggs was going in on Allen, right? We know that he can be emotional. So who's to say that they don't get in that locker room and are throwing helmets and that something's going on, And he's like, you know what? Let me get out of here. Because he and Josh, they're good, right? But you could get to the point where you cross that line and you're never good anymore, right?
Yeah,
You remove yourself.
that's a fair point, right? Remove yourself. You know that something's going to be said and I'm going to go off, and then I'm going to be everybody's going to look at me like, what the hell? So if I just remove myself, that doesn't happen and we're all good.
Absolutely. So that was the way that I was reading it. Maybe I'm being more partial to Diggs. I don't know, but that's the way I read that. But he did go back, right? Duke Johnson got him to go back. He goes back.
And then he left. But he still left before coaches came in. He wasn't there for any of the coach talk.
Okay. I thought he was there for that, but neither here nor there. So now he leaves. He goes to social media, right? This is really on Eli Apple, not on Stefan Diggs. So he goes to social media, right? And he puts out these little cryptic tweets or Instagram little posts, right? And Eli Apple decides he's going to troll. Well, I have two schools of thought here. Well, multiple schools of thought here. First of all, if you're going to say something, at least have done something in order to warrant being able to say something, right? I hate the guys that are talking junk that are sitting on the bench waving a towel. I hate that. You didn't do anything, right? Eli Apple, you may have been on the field, but you didn't do anything, right? You're more of a detriment to that defense than anything else, right? They're afraid of you, and not for the right reasons, right? They're afraid of you because they're afraid you're going to give it up. Everybody thought that Allen was going to torch you, and it's not because of your coverage. It's because of your front line that we talked about, that defensive line. Anyways, Eli Apple starts trolling Stefan Diggs in the Buffalo Bills. And then he puts out the tweet or the Instagram reply to Stefan Diggs that says Cancun on 3, and he has the little heart symbol. Now, you've had Bills Mafia went in on him, rightly so. Shaq Lawson, defensive end, went in on him, rightfully so. Stefan Diggs, a simple reply, right? That he didn't go in, but it was like one of those backhanded slaps, right? Kind of caught him. And then the Bengals fans started to defend Eli Apple, which that was the indefensible, right? You have to show class, right? Again, I'm okay talking junk in Buffalo. If you don't want people talking junk, then you show up to the game, right? Then he can't say anything, right? So I don't have a problem with a lot of things that were said, except for that one, because that one appears to be a shot at Diggs and Damar Hamlin. And Damar Hamlin, just like kids in politics and families in politics and families in sports, are off limits right now. Completely off limits. You don't go there. And you thought that was funny? And other people in the league, besides the Buffalo Bills, besides Bills Mafia, came at Eli Apple saying, what are you doing? Right? Tasteless to the umpteenth degree. Absolutely tasteless. And Eli, if you're watching it, I'm not even going to allow you to come on the show to try to explain it because I don't want you on the show. Go ahead, Stevie D.
Yeah, you wonder. I don't know. I wonder what he was thinking with Damar's love signal, right? I don't understand. Like Cancun on 3, I don't have a problem with because you're making a football reference, right? That you're going on vacation on 3, right? But with the symbol, I don't understand the symbol at the end. What would possess you to do that? I got none on it. I don't. But Eli is not all the way up there, right? Maybe it's the name. No, Eli Manning is the right, and Eli Apple. Maybe it's the name. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to. It's just
the
very
book of Eli.
bizarre.
Hey,
It's
the book
very
of
bizarre.
Eli, my man was a bad boy. So,
But
but no,
I got nothing for him.
In all fairness, you just don't cross that line, right? Again, if you want to talk smack, you want to talk junk, you whooped us. There's nothing I can say. You don't cross that line, and that really, again, even outside of Buffalo, people were condemning that tweet.
Yeah.
And that should show you. And then in a PR move, right? I hate this. I absolutely hate this. You know that the Cincinnati Bengal brass got with him, got with his agent, got on the phone like, Doug, what are you doing? Right? Yeah. That makes no sense. We're trying to get to, we have a goal, and here you go spouting off with this. You need to go either delete it or retract it. And somebody said, no, you can't delete it, right? Because if you delete it, now you're hiding from. Just say what you really meant to say. And so then I never really meant to say that about, Damar Hamlin. He's like family. We're all like family. I don't need to hear that, right? Don't need to hear that at all. Exactly, Nate. That's exactly right.
Well, and I think that's where Shaq Lawson was going with it, right? On his response, like
that's exactly right. But again, like a punk that you are, Eli, right? You wait till you're far removed away from the situation, right? Like these millennials that sit there, in the corner in a dark room on their phone, just texting away, right? They're cyberbullying. That's what you think you're doing?
The social media tough guy. The social media tough guy.
That's all you are, right? Get between the lines and start saying that stuff. I didn't hear you say that during the whole game. Right, because sure enough, you would have been dealt with, and exactly what Nate was said right there, right in the 90s, that you would have got dealt with. Very poor, very low class. So, again, talking about that, just disappointed. Hey, Nate, I'm glad you're with us. We got to work it out so we get you on the show. That's for sure. Not sure if you saw last week's show. But we have Russell Copeland on, so it was good to have him on, and he's got some good things. But if you are still with us, just kind of wanted to get your sense, and maybe we'll run this back again next week. Want to get your sense of just how dominated we were on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, and really it was in the trenches. It was really there. You go. You still with us, but it was really in the trenches where we were just getting knocked around. Defensive line getting moved 5 yards back, offensive line getting moved 5 yards back the other way, right? And it prevented Josh from doing what he needed to do, prevented Cook and Singletary from doing what they needed to do. It just was a mess. And kind of, would love to get your input on that, but hopefully we'll connect offline and maybe we can run this back again next week, as I said. Stevie D.
All right, I got one thing because I know we're long today, but in our scroll, Brett Favre must go to jail. So if you have HBO, Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. He's got his show, right? And they handle sports topics, and they have different people that handle sports topics. The first episode of this year, I just watched it last night. They did a opening piece on Brett Favre in this scandal. And I have to tell you, if you know a little bit about the Brett Favre scandal and you don't know enough and you want to know more, they go into it about 15 to 20 minutes. And how he knew exactly what was going on. There's no way he complete ignorance that he didn't know where the money was coming from and what the money was supposed to be used for in the community. It's a must watch because we're not getting this on any other TV. We're not getting on the NFL Network. We're not getting on ESPN. We're not getting on the regular news channels. right? We're not getting a special on 60 Minutes or anything like that. ABC's 2020, whatever they call that show, right? Nightly news. We're not getting any of that. But they covered it. A Dateline. Thank you. That's what I was thinking for, right? I'm not much of a news guy myself, but HBO, if you have it, watch it. Be on the lookout for it, because they'll replay it all during the week until the next episode. It is unbelievable.
That's Nate's response on that Zero Motion.
Yeah. So
yeah, no, I definitely would want to see that, and I want to keep this going. I mean, I know we're just a small piece here, Stevie D, right? And we talk about it, but hopefully this becomes like that telephone game, right? Because what was done for those folks and taking from the needy, unforgivable. Like
they
going to the
interviewed three ladies. They interviewed three ladies that basically make no money, right? Mississippi is the poorest state in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they talked about it on there. And they have programs in Mississippi to give the money out to people so they can pay bills, get food on the table for their families, right? Knowing Brett Favre and this piece made $140 million in his playing career. $140 million. You're going and asking the state to take money to build a volleyball court at your daughter's college for $5 million. You can't raise the money yourself because you're Brett Favre in all the different reaches of life that you have to get, that you have to work with officials from the state of Mississippi and work to take the money that needs to go to the people so they can survive, to build a gym. Are you kidding me? The text messages that they read back and forth, wow. It's just wow, right? And in fairness, this is just one corruption. I'm sure this goes on in other states as well, that there's corruption with money that needs to go to people. But the mere fact that this is happening with such a well-known person, and it's been outed, it's outed, and it's not being taken up, is beyond me. And it is interesting. The guy who found the mistake, they interviewed him. He was all over it. We won't call him the whistleblower, but he was the accounting guy that found it. Like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? Like, he could not believe what he saw, what the officials did, and how they took the money and gave it to Brett, and then how they paid Brett $1.1 million to do interviews, and he never did it. And Brett welched on that, but that $1.1 million went to the volleyball as well. There was multiple payouts to Brett Favre, multiple payouts, not just one, multiple. Mm-hmm. Incredible piece. They did an unbelievable job on that piece, and to help.
It's funny. It's funny because I'm thinking when you said the name could raise the money. Well, you're still doing the Copperfit commercials.
Right.
Just take that money and just say, here you go. 30 seconds worth of work that's played every day, all day.
I felt bad for the folks that they interviewed, that they just live in areas. There's not jobs. There's no jobs. There's nothing really there, but you're there because it's generational. The whole generations of their family lived there. You're not going to pack up and move somewhere else. And it's a struggle. And they have millions of dollars available for people to help them. And you got this guy taking to build up a volleyball court for some college that has enough money that they can do it themselves. They don't even need a handout. What? Because you want it to be called the Favre Arena or whatever, some BS because you got misallocated, I forget the word, misappropriated funds.
Well, and here's one other thing, because I believe Marcus Dupree is caught up in this, right?
I did hear his name on a separate one.
Yeah, he's not in this one exactly, but they're trying to say that Marcus Dupree had mishandled funds. We'll just put it like that.
Mismanagement of funds. How about Marcus Dupree getting ripped off by the Deacon or whatever that was out there when he was playing for the USFL?
But hold on. Here's the difference between Marcus Dupree and Brett Favre, right? Marcus came straight out with his lawyer, files and folders wide open, saying, I didn't do this. Don't look at me with this. What do we need to look at, right? To clear his name, right? And he's still struggling and still fighting this. Brett Favre has gone hiding, right? Brett Favre, you don't want to hear, oh, well, I didn't do anything. You'll hear from my lawyers, you'll hear from my attorney. No, there's nothing to hear because what we hear from Brett Favre, to your point, the whistleblower. I forgot the woman's name that they have under investigation and indictment. Right. You have the guy that already took the plea deal, right, and is singing like a canary, right? Plus, you have the audio tapes. They have tapes, right? They have tapes. This isn't Watergate, but they got tapes, right?
They got tapes.
What's going on here?
But yeah, text. Hello,
but. This, you don't hear about it on ABC. To your point, NBC, CBS, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, NPR, Bloomberg, Al Jazeera. Nobody's covering it except for OW Sports.
Yeah.
Except for OW Sports.
Did he not learn from my forefathers in New York? The John Gottis of the world. You can't say something where they can bug a room. He's caught on tapes. I mean, the gangsters of the past used to have runners, so he was never on the phone. Nothing's ever said. This guy puts in a text message. You can't get rid of it.
But that's what happened.
With all this evidence, I can't believe they're not moving forward. They didn't get the district attorney on it to say what's going on and why they're dragging their feet. I mean, they've asked multiple people to come on to talk about it. They declined to talk about it. But that's what I don't understand. Criminal activity we've had, and they're not moving forward.
This is what happens when you feel as though you are above the law, right? And he feels as though he is above and nothing will happen. And, it's going to be a shame if they continue to keep this quiet as much as they can and let it stay under the rug. It'll be a shame. Yep. They have the tapes. All right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Therapeutic again. I hate saying this. I'm just like Stefan Diggs. I hate doing this year after year after year, but it was therapeutic, Stevie D. And thank you for listening, right? Thank you for helping bring me back when I was going too far. Gerald, good to hear from you. Nate, good to hear from you. Again, offers wide open. Come on in. Terry J, thank you. It's been a good season, Stevie D, right? Now we're both done. So it's been a good season. And we're going to finish up and, take it through the playoffs, take it through the exhibition game, still calling it an exhibition game. We'll take it through the exhibition game. And then, we'll kind of have some time off and then reboot and come back bigger, stronger, faster, like the $6 million man. Right. But we thank everybody who has come on the show. We thank everybody for their participation. Again, you can find us out all over social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Of course, you can rewatch on YouTube. We're there. And so, we'd love to have you and just stay part of the OW Sports family, right? It's a good time. And, we enjoy doing it. Again, not to rehash, but really what you have are just two friends that sit around on the phone and just talk about this stuff, right? And so now we're letting you in on our conversations, right? And now we've turned it into a party line, right? You get Gerald, you get Nate, you get Terry, you get Jay, right? You get Marcus, right? Don't want to forget about Marcus. You get, everybody just jumping in on the conversation, and we love it, right? We absolutely love it, and have a good time doing it. And hopefully you guys enjoy the content that we're putting out there. So, Stevie D, any words here as we bring this one to a close?
There's always next year.
Yeah,
Story of my freaking life.
that's our anthem. That is going to be our anthem. There's always next year. All right. So for my co-host Stevie D, I'm Vince. We'll talk to you.